Cold winds claw through rickety doors as Thabo sits hunched in his battered shack, the sound of sirens mixing with the shouts outside. Every corner of the Cape Flats tightens around him, where daily survival means dodging bullets, hunger, and the gangs that rule over scraps of hope. His mother's voice lingers in the cramped room. "Thabo, don't do it." Yet she knows even love can't buy bread or keep. The gangs, from their knock-dot, each day is a tug-of-war, between right and wrong, between family and the promise of protection and quick money that the gangs dangle in front of desperate boys. The streets whisper that if you want to make it, if you want to matter, sometimes you have to choose a side, even if the price is your soul. For Thabo, joining a Cape Flats gang isn't about power. It's about feeding his little sister, paying rent, and trying to carve out a future that seems out of reach. The line between survival and losing yourself blurs with every decision. And tonight, under flickering streetlights, Thabo is forced to pick a side. The Cape Flats, life on the edge. Life on the Cape Flats is a raw, daily struggle, shaped by old wounds and new battles. Over the years, these endless stretches of sand and concrete have formed a world set apart, where history and hardship push entire communities to the very edge. Every day, kids like Thabo walk streets painted with warnings, neighbors swap stories of loss under flickering lights, and parents worry if tonight's sleep will be safe or shattered by gunfire. To understand why someone like Thabo faces such impossible choices, you have to start with where this place came from, and how gangs have come to shape its soul. From forced removals to modern desperation, the pain of the past lingers on every street in the Cape Flats. During apartheid, South Africa's rulers built strict lines between people, black, colored, and Indian families were ripped from their homes in places like District 6 and cast out to the newly created Cape Flats. Their homes were bulldozed, families split apart, and whole communities lost. Forced removals. The Group Areas Act of 1950 gave the government power to decide who could live where. From 1960 to 1983, almost 3.5 million people lost their homes. The Cape Flats, miles from jobs and city life, became a dumping ground for these displaced families. Broken social structure, grandmothers, uncles, cousins, friends networks that meant safety and trust were scattered. Old neighbors became strangers, familiar faces drifted away, and with them, the daily help and unity people leaned on. Growing poverty, people arrived in the flats with almost nothing. Jobs were far, transport was poor, and new houses were often barely more than shacks. Even today, unemployment remains stubbornly high, making hope feel out of reach for many families. Lost unity, new bonds, stripped of old roots, people built new bonds. Churches, soccer teams, and street committees formed. But the emptiness left by forced removals often made way for something else to fill the void. Gangs offering quick belonging, power, and income. This tragic history is not just a story from the past, its scars are fresh and visible. The cycle of poverty and exclusion continues, making it hard for communities like Thabo to climb out or keep the next generation safe. How gangs shape everyday life in the Cape Flats. Gangs are more than headlines, they are a daily reality, influencing every corner and conversation. You see their fingerprints everywhere, graffiti and territory. Every wall sprayed with bold colors tells you who rules each block. Even kids learn which markings mean danger or safety, instantly reading "Don't cross here" as well as any street sign. Shootings and sirens. Gunshots are not just background noise, they are a warning. Children play gang wars without fully knowing what those sounds really mean. For many, Dodging bullets or hiding under tables has become routine. Pressure on youth. Gangs often spot new recruits early. Some approach boys as young as 12. A pack of sneakers or a few banknotes, all it takes. If you say no, trouble follows you. If you say yes, you might eat tonight, but risk everything tomorrow. Normalization of violence. Friends talk about shootouts as casually as others might discuss sports. Memorials for young men who didn't make it spring up on street corners, and kids grow up seeing loss as normal. Day by day, the presence of gangs strips away the ordinary joys of life. Trust and play are replaced with suspicion and fear. For parents, each morning is a silent prayer that their child will not get drawn in or caught up in the crossfire. Yet even here, hope is not truly lost. People fight sometimes quietly, sometimes loudly against this tide. They look for new ways to build trust, protect children, and push back. But as long as poverty and memories of forced removals hang heavy in the air, gangs are never far away from the next desperate choice. Thabos family, love, hunger, and hope. Even in the coldest corners of the Cape Flats, family means everything. Thabos family moves through life stitched together by love, but every day tests that bond. With his father missing and his mother's illness keeping her in bed, Thabo wears the weight of the world before his 18th birthday. As adult roles land on his young shoulders, each day is a mix of hunger, heartbreak, and hope. The sound of his baby sister crying in the next room becomes his alarm clock. A reminder, the struggle isn't just his own, it's theirs. Living with less, the weight of responsibility. Most mornings, Thabo wakes before the sun, wraps his thin blanket tighter, and listens for any sign his mother's fever has broken. She coughs gently in the next room. Their food shelf is nearly empty, just a mug of mealy meal left at the bottom. In families like Thabos, kids don't just grow up fast, they skip childhood. When parents get sick or disappear, the oldest children juggle everything, making porridge and tea from nearly nothing, chasing younger siblings out the door for school, standing in line for water or food handouts, scraping coins together from odd jobs or neighbors. Thabo sits with his sister, eyes locked on her. "I'll sort out dinner. Don't worry," he whispers, even though he's not sure how. That's how love looks here, making a promise you're desperate to keep. Today, South Africa has thousands of child-headed households. Disease, violence, and poverty rob kids of mums and dads, forcing siblings to become breadwinners. Girls, just 13, boys, no older than 16, collect medicine, sweep floors, and face landlords alone. Their world shrinks to a cycle of chores, school, skipping meals, and too much responsibility. Kids trade playtime for parental duties. Neighbors whisper that Bester Boy has it rough. Thabo feels the stares but keeps moving. The biggest hunger isn't just in his belly, it's in his heart, wishing life was easier for his family. Still, he pushes through for their sake, carrying hope in small, daily acts. Like splitting a piece of bread 3 ways, ironing a school shirt for his sister, or writing a worried letter to a far-off uncle who never writes back. Dreams under siege, school should be a refuge, but for Thabo, even the classroom holds constant threats. Every day, he fights for focus, while hunger gnaws at his side. He drags himself to class, hungry and tired. Teachers notice the slipping grades but don't see the nights he spent mopping up his mother's fever or searching for missing rent money. The sounds of other kids, laughing, teasing, sometimes cruel, don't make things easier. At break time, he sits alone, too ashamed to queue for the free lunch. The other boys jeer, "Where's your real dad, Bester?" The sting lasts all day still. Walking home, his mind races, thinking through tough choices. If he skips tomorrow's classes, he could maybe find work. If he leaves, who will look after his mother? The questions churn, and no answer feels right. At home, his little sister waits at the door. "Did you eat today?" he asks, voice soft. She shakes her head, looking down. He ruffles her hair, heart aching. "We'll figure something out." He always says that, and every night he tries. For Thabo, every dream is under attack. Poor marks, closed doors to scholarships. Teachers lose patience. Friends drop away. Hunger and shame weigh heavy. Each burden chips away at hope, but he clings to it fiercely. Some days, hope is the only thing that keeps him moving a stubborn flame against the cold. Thabo stands at the kitchen sink, scrubbing out an old pot, mind wandering. He imagines a different life, one where he's just a boy, worrying about homework or soccer, not hospital visits or funeral costs. But here, dreams must wait. The world demands, he protects, provides, and endures. In these moments, hope feels fragile but vital. Each small victory, a hot meal, a night without fear, a smile from his sister, minds him why he keeps fighting. No matter how much feels lost. Crossing the line, the moment Thabo joins the gang, the Cape Flats holds its breath, as young men like Thabo reach the edge where right and wrong start to blur. For weeks, Thabo stands at this line, battered by hunger and desperation, while the noise of the streets seeps under his skin. He listens through cracks in his shack, weighing hope against fear, until one evening the pressure becomes too much to bear. This moment, the one where Thabo steps across, changes everything. For him and for the people who love him, temptation and pressure from peers. The allure of gang life comes loud and close, slipping into every long day and cold night. Thabo's old classmates play soccer in the dust. But there are new faces on the sidelines, boys with fresh sneakers, rolled up cash, and sharp tongues. One of them tosses a grin Thabo's way. "You think you're better than us because you work for peanuts." He gears, flicking a coin into the dirt. The barrage never lets up. When he turns down a cigarette, they laugh. When he walks away from easy money, they tease him harder. These aren't strangers. They're boys he grew up with, now speaking in the code of loyalty and threatenings, just thinly wrapped as jokes. Boasting rights. The gang boys flaunt what they have: phones, watches, cooked chicken legs from the corner shop. "All this from one run, Bester," says Lemmy, waving a wad of bills. "Your mum still borrowing sugar." Public dares. At every bus stop and alley, taunts fly. "Scared? You're missing out. Even your sister thinks you're soft." With each jab, Thabo clutches his backpack tighter. But pride and anger grind away at his guard. Promises of power, in low whispers or loud shouts. The gang paints a picture: safety, respect, and more food for his family. "Eat with us." "Nobody ever touches your people," one says, as if reading the worries in Thabo's eyes. One night, Thabo lingers outside longer than usual. Stomach rumbling and face burning from the day's latest round of mockery. Lemmy leans in close, voice soft. "We've all crossed that line, bro. It's nothing. Tomorrow, you're one of us. Or tomorrow, you're still hungry." The line is right, they're faint, but waiting for his step. He doesn't say yes at first. The next day, his little sister cries for bread. The landlord bangs on the door for rent. Each shout, each empty bowl, each humiliated walk through the playground chips away at the wall Thabos built. By the weekend, temptation is no longer a whisper. It's a scream in his ears. On a moonless night, beneath the humming streetlight, Thabo stands at the corner. Lemmy tosses him a phone. "You're in." Thabo's hand closes reflexively around it, heart pounding. He's crossed the line, swallowed by relief, terror, and the heavy, immediate hope of finally being able to protect his own. A family's silent collapse. The first time Thabo brings home extra bread and tins of fish, his mother's eyes widen. She says nothing. A long pause hangs in the dark kitchen, broken only by the click of the light switch. The air feels thicker. His sister cheers at the sight of dinner, but Thabos' mother looks away, her hands trembling. From then on, the family eats a little better. New shoes appear for his sister, and the rent gets paid on time. No more pounding from the landlord, no more skipping meals. But every kindness comes at a cost. Unspoken tension. Thabos' mother avoids his gaze. She prays more quietly at night and locks the door herself. Conversations grow shorter. The laughter that once filled their cramped home now echoes hollow, replaced by the soundtrack of coins clinking on the table. Loss of innocence. His little sister asks, "Where did the food come from?" Thabo shrugs. For the first time, he lies to her. The heaviness of those words clings to him, a secret stain on every meal. Trust eroded. Old neighbors whisper about changes at the Bester home. Thabo overhears his aunt on the phone. "Did you see his new clothes? Something's not right." Shame fills him, but hunger and fear drown it out. For now, late at night, his mother sits by the window with her head in her hands. Thabo hears her cry but says nothing. Their family has gained money but lost the light that once warmed their home. The cost of survival, he realizes, isn't just paid in risk and violence. It's collected in silence. In the small betrayals and growing distance between loved ones. The line Thabo crossed was supposed to save his family. But it also took something precious. In the corners of their home, trust and innocence slip away, trading places with fear and quiet sorrow, like so many before him. Thabo hoped for security and found a new kind of emptiness. Inside Cape Flats gang culture, two outsiders, Cape Flats gangs might look like shadows moving in the night. For boys like Thabo, becoming a member means stepping into a tight web of rituals, rules, and danger. In this world, every move is watched, and every action tells a story about power, survival, and the bonds that both protect and imprison. Initiation and proving yourself, violence, tests of loyalty. Secret codes. Gang membership on the Cape Flats doesn't come with a handshake or a club card. It starts with an initiation, a brutal rite of passage that tests how far you'll go to earn respect. Tanned. If you can stomach the cost. Thabo stands in the half-light of an alley, breaths sharp in his chest. Lemmy, the local shot caller, sizes him up. "Prove you're not soft," he orders, tossing a gun into Thabos' hands. The test is never written down, but every recruit knows what it means. Steal from a rival or the neighborhood. Shop. Carry a weapon on your first patrol. Join in when the crew strikes at an enemy turf. Violence isn't just part of the test. It's the language the gang speaks. Pulling the trigger or stealing under watchful eyes isn't just about money. It's proof you're tough enough, desperate enough, hungry enough to belong. Once you've crossed that line, the gang claims you. Marks are tattoos inked into skin, scars from brawls, specialized signals in how you walk, stand, and speak. Secret codes and slang. The language is sharp and quick. Is G Gavalik? Are you dangerous? Means more than just attitude. It's a status check. Getting called Bangaji, weakling stings more than a slap. Proving loyalty. Orders from older members aren't suggestions. If told to deliver a package or watch out while others do a job, you do it. No questions. Loyalty means never snitching, never backing down. Acting tough. Respect inside the gang comes from acting fearless. If you don't show you're strong, Thabo tells himself, you'll meet. But there's something deeper. Joining means taking on the gang's secrets and burdens. In corners and alleys, new names replace old ones. The answers you give at home shrink while secrets bloom. You play the part or you pay the price. Quick gains, slow losses. Thabo's new lifestyle. Stepping into gang life means everything changes fast. For Thabo, it starts with the little things: shoes that aren't falling apart, a wad of cash in his pocket. Suddenly, hunger isn't a shadow sticking close. The gang pays up front, cash on hand, for the first time. Thabo can buy lunch, lend a few coins to his sister, and pay off the landlord. New tackies, expensive sneakers, the trophy every broke kid used to stare at become a symbol. Now, Thabo walks down the street on clouds, chin high, heart pounding, belonging. The crew teaches him their handshake, slaps his back, lets him laugh at jokes he barely understands. At last, he's not invisible, but every gain comes stamped with a hidden price. As the days pass, Thabo feels changes he can't ignore. Paranoia creeps in. Who saw me last night? He wonders, replaying each job. Police sirens twist his stomach. He checks over his shoulder, jumps when someone whispers his name. Risk and fear. Suddenly, danger is everywhere. A wrong word, a missed curfew, glance from a rival. Each can end with blood. Sometimes Thabo sees bruises on his arms and can't recall the fight. Alienation. At home, silence replaces stories. His mother's eyes search his face for answers, but he looks away. Friends skip calls. Some are scared to walk on his side of the street. He can't remember the last time he laughed without checking who was listening. With every small win, Thabo feels another piece of who he was slipping away. Money changes what's on the table, but it doesn't buy back easy sleep or real trust. The gang gives him a place, but strips away parts of his soul, one secret at a time. Inside, Thabo battles with himself. Was it worth it? He wonders, but saying it out loud would be asking for trouble. For now, he keeps up the act, laughing with the boys, watching every corner, hiding tremors as best he can. The quick gains are real, but the slow losses cut deeper, threatening to hollow him out. Each day asks the same question. How much of yourself are you willing to lose? The high cost, violence, trauma, and impossible choices. The Cape Flats pays a steep price for every day shaped by gangs and fear. Violence creeps into every corner, childhoods, pushing families apart, and forcing young people into choices that never feel like real options. Thabo's story is only one in a sea of thousands. Behind every siren or headline, there is a deeper story of broken trust, trauma, and the constant struggle to hope for something better. A system that fails its youth. For too many, the Cape Flats is a place where growing up means bracing for the next blow. Police patrols often circle but rarely stay long enough to make meaningful change. Corruption and intimidation run deep. Many residents talk openly about officers who take bribes or look the other way. Thabo overheard his neighbor telling his mother, "Sometimes the cops work with the gangs. Who can we trust?" Schools are supposed to be safe havens, but even they can be recruiting grounds. One teacher, Mrs. Dalmany, pulls Thabo aside as he gazes out the window. "You're not yourself these days." He shrugs, afraid to say, "I don't feel safe here or anywhere else." Rehabilitation programs, when they exist, are stretched thin and rarely reach the right kids at the right time. Most focus on punishment instead of healing. Thabo once attended a scared straight talk where ex-gangsters yelled warnings. No one stayed after to listen to his fears or ask about his home life. So why do so many young people see gangs as their only way out? Few jobs, fewer chances. With youth unemployment above 29%, real work is a mirage for many. Thabo flips through job ads pinned to the community board but shakes his head. They want experience. They want money for bus fare. Who's meant to survive this? Family brokenness, with fathers missing, mothers sick or working endless hours, and siblings scattered. Gangs offer a twisted replacement. They become your brothers. But they'll use you up, Thabo thinks, hearing a neighbor mumble that the gang treats you right until you say no. Protection from violence. When even police cannot promise safety, gangs promise it for a price. Peer pressure becomes survival. Stick with us, no one will touch your people, one recruiter told Thabo, and he almost believed him. Never-ending trauma, kids watch friends die, homes get raided, and violence feel normal. Research from the area shows that direct exposure to violence, witnessing a murder, being attacked, or losing a sibling, raises the risk of depression and trauma by more than double. Thabo's friend Sizzy stands at the edge of their shared alley. You start feeling numb, like it's just another day until it's you. The system's cracks turn into chasms. Instead of pulling kids back, it sometimes pushes them further in. Without real alternatives or consistent support, gangs fill a gap, giving riches, belonging, or sometimes just the illusion of control. Even as they drain away futures, taught hope and survival. Is there a way back? Even as violence and trauma carve deep scars, small lights remain, moments of regret, a prayer whispered in the dark, or a hand reached out by family or faith. In these rare cracks, hope struggles to survive. Thabo sits alone one night, hands shaking, staring at the fresh bruise on his arm. He thinks, this isn't what I wanted. His mother, who mostly stays silent now, hugs him suddenly tight. She whispers, I still see my son in you. For a second, the tough mask crumbles. Regret stabs through the numbness. On Sundays, Thabo's aunt drags him to the tiny church at the end of their block. Rows of desperate faces sing off-key voices, shaking but honest. At the confessional, he hesitates, then mutters, I've done things I can't take back. The priest looks him in the eye and says, You are not the worst thing you have done. For the first time in weeks, Thabo breathes easier. These moments, however fragile, hint at a way out. Family love. Thabo's sister leaves notes by his bed. Don't go out tonight, we need you. Love pushes him to imagine something better, to wonder if he can change course before it's too late. Faith programs. Some churches and mosques run youth groups, sports leagues, and open kitchens. They help young people like Thabo picture another life, if only for a few hours. Support from former gangsters, in rare but powerful cases. People who manage to leave gangs return as mentors, proving change is possible. Thabo's neighbor, once feared, now organizes Saturday breakfasts for kids and tells his story openly. I got out, I am still paying, but I got out. Paths to healing or escape are never easy. Kids need a net of support, real jobs, and honest guidance. For many in the Cape Flats, regret is a constant shadow, but hope can still flicker even when impossible choices have already been made. Thabo sits on the edge of his bed, fingers tracing the worn Bible his grandmother left him. Around him, the world feels wired tight, but somewhere beneath the fear and regret, a stubborn hope remains. If there's a way out, he says to the empty room, I have to find it. For her, for me. As the sun sets over the Cape Flats, the fading light casts long shadows on the dusty streets where Thabo Bester's story unfolds. His choice to join a gang is not about seeking power, but about the desperate struggle to survive amid hunger and broken promises. This reality exposes the cracks in South Africa's social fabric where poverty, trauma, and limited opportunities force young people into impossible decisions. Thabo's story asks more than what went wrong. It demands that communities step up and real solutions are found. Support must move beyond words into action, offering safety nets, education, and real jobs before more lives get caught in the same cycle. Only then can the Cape Flats see a dawn where boys like Thabo don't feel the need to choose the streets to protect their families. The cost of silence is too high. It's time to listen, act, and rebuild a future where hope isn't a luxury, but a birthright.